So it's time for another gardening week video. It's absolutely blazing hot, so it's really nice to be in the shade for a few minutes. And I'm just taking out these turnips out of this pepper bed, and it'll give the peppers a bit more space, but also it'll make room so that I can plant some lettuces in here, because I need to keep on top of my lettuce successions, and I'm kind of depending on interplanting this year to squeeze all the lettuces in. This bed is bone dry, even though I've been watering it like every other day. But some pretty good sized turnips in here. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with these. I'll show you them once I've got them cleaned up. So these peppers are looking very worse for wear. It's not actually, I don't think, because of the being interplanted with all of these turnips, which actually are looking really nice. It's the cold nights, really cold nights we've had, down to 5 degrees or so, you know, and although they've been underneath this low tunnel, it doesn't really keep them very warm at night. And so they've all really suffered, all the peppers are suffering, but I think they'll pull through now that warmer nights have arrived. So these are the lettuces that I'm just going to plant now. Nice little selection. I'm not going to be able to get them all in this bed. I've given them a good water and given the bed a good water, so it's reasonably moist now. The lettuces are small, but I think they'll be better off in the bed than in the modules. So I'm just going to give them a decent amount of space though, because I don't want them stressing out. And I don't want them competing with the peppers either. And if you look at some of my other pepper beds, you can see how I've done the lettuces in those beds. And it's worked pretty well so far. We've certainly not been short of lettuce. And I don't think really the peppers have suffered from the interplant. In fact, I think they might have even benefited, because I think it's kept the ground shaded, weed-free and moist. So I'm going to pop these out and get them in. So I've got quite a few very pretty lettuces here. Jerry can is a really nice one. This is one of the Salanova types, and yeah, just very pretty. I do like these pretty interplants really, because I don't grow flowers. For me, it's really important that the beds look quite attractive, especially given that they're kind of surrounded by all this ugly plastic. So they're looking really nice, and as you can see, there's plenty of space there. So when I harvest this pak choy tonight, I'll be putting lettuces in that bed as well. And yeah, that is about sort of going to work out as sort of 2 to 3 weeks supply for us, just the lettuces in this one little bed. If there's one thing gardening teaches you, it's how to deal with disappointment and hope that it's balanced by joy. Right now, these brassicas down here are, you know, bringing me a lot of joy. We've taken the nets off, they're looking beautiful. There are cabbage whites fluttering around, but we'll talk about that later. But as we get further down here, it doesn't look so good. So these are the overwintered shallots, and they were looking so nice. And as often the case with onions, when they're looking really nice, they're going to go to seed on you. And pretty much, not all of them, but I would say a good 50% of these have gone to seed on me. Fortunately, I've learnt over the years of growing onions to be prepared for disappointment. And yeah, diversification is the answer. Unfortunately, this little bed that I'd interplanted into the lettuces, and this is a mix of Leela, Red Baron and Tough Ball. These are all looking really nice. I'm very happy with these. And of course, you know, as a last resort, we've got the overwintered onions as well. So yeah, these are looking pretty good. And of course, my main crop bed, I think, is looking even better. You know, they're not too big. You know, one of the problems I think I've seen on this allotment site right now is that a lot of people got really big main crop onions by planting them at wide spacings, but loads of them have gone to seed already, and there's not a single one of these so far gone to seed. So fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, they'll be okay. So these are my storage beetroot, and we're having a lot of beet leaf miner when I planted these out, and I really didn't want these little seedlings to be the victim of the leaf miner, so I put them under this little net here, which I now want to take off because I want to be able to see what's going on underneath the net and manage the plants. And in theory, this net was too coarse for leaf miner, you know, so they could get through it. But in practice, it seems to have been a good enough barrier, because these are looking absolutely beautiful. And I'm slightly nervous now about taking them off, but it seems that the leaf miner, it's reducing now in terms of severity. And I think these plants are big enough now for me to be able to manage it. So fingers crossed, touch wood again, I've made the right decision there. But I've never had my beetroot crop, never lost a beetroot crop through leaf miner in the past, so I'm pretty hopeful. You can see the difference though, you know, as you kind of move along from that end of the bed to this end of the bed, just how small these plants are because of the shade from the trees, and that end there is looking pretty lush. So last night we enjoyed a minor miracle. We actually had the second in the last week thunderstorm, and it laid down about 10 millimetres of water, and the previous one laid down about 10 millimetres of water as well. 10 millimetres doesn't sound very much until you think about the size of a typical allotment plot. So my plot is 250 square metres, and so 20 millimetres of water works out as 5 cubic metres of water. That's a lot, 5 IBC tanks. And I always find it pretty humbling to realise that nature in 2 days can lay down as much water as I can collect in my IBC tanks, all my IBC tanks, over the whole of winter. So tonight I'm spraying my brassicas with BT. I'll show you the variety, the types of BT that I've got in my store ready to use. Traditionally it's been pretty difficult to source, but I managed to source this from Amazon, so obviously that's not that difficult. But anyway, when you're spraying BT, ideally you want to do it at night. You want to do it when there's no prospect of rain, because the rain will wash it off. And you want to make sure that you're spraying the underside of the leaves, because the bacillus, I can't even say it, the BT bacteria, it has to be eaten by the caterpillars in order to be effective. And normally the caterpillars are on the underside of the leaves, and so that's where the BT needs to be. And right now there's not a lot of evidence of eggs, although there are a few eggs on some of the leaves back at home. So it's kind of preventative. I mean, really, you don't really need to spray it until there's actual evidence of caterpillars. But you always miss some. So I think it's just worth getting started once the plants are exposed to the threat. On Debbie's plot, we've still got the nets on, but on my plot, it's just not practical really to net this, because I've got too much going on here, too many plants. I've got squash plants growing down the back there. Yeah, BT is the solution for me. Even on Debbie's plot, by the end of July, the plants will have outgrown our brassica cage, and so we'll be relying on BT there as well. And of course, in the kitchen garden, where we don't want nets anyway, BT's essential. I'm really pleased with these red cabbages. Really pleased. They're ready for harvest now. They're only small, some of them, but they're kind of going to come in succession. So there's good firm heads in here. And yeah, so I've got enough red cabbages, early ones, to harvest 2 a week now until August, when the main crops will be ready. So, or the early main crops will be ready. And they just look so pretty as well. And then finally, I just wanted to show you my winter squashes. And these have been really sulking because I planted these out, oh, well, maybe 3 weeks ago. And then we just had those really cold nights, you know, it was down to 5 degrees centigrade, and it was often sort of 7 or 8 or something like that. And they really like it above 10 at night. And they sulked and sulked and sulked, but whilst they were sulking, I think they were just getting themselves nicely established, and now they're really looking healthy. And I've got quite a lot of these plants. I think I've got 9, maybe 15 or something like that, and they're all looking good. I've never yet, I don't think, planted 15 squashes and had them all take. And I've got quite a lot of spares just in case that I probably won't need to use. So that's really great, and they're going to grow, of course, up canes here and make a really nice backdrop to the rest of the plot. So yeah, very happy with these. So I always like playing the continuity game, and last week was all about cauliflowers, and this week is all about calabrese. So we've got 4 calabrese heads almost ready for harvest. I picked this one as a sample. I think I'll leave the others for a week. And then we've got cauliflowers probably for next week. So yeah, that's working out quite nicely. So we just harvested the garlic this week, or at least half of the garlic. And we've got that drying now outside. And we'll be picking the rest of the garlic next week. And this table is kind of getting to be more like a typical summer harvest table now. And I guess, you know, it's getting a bit boring for everybody because everybody's got the same things. But yeah, we'll take a look at it. So we've got, I think that's probably the last of the early carrots. So we're kind of looking a bit scrappy now. So it'll be nice to move on to new season carrots pretty soon. And absolutely gorgeous potatoes, of course, at this time of year. Very happy with all of those. And that's 3 tubers, so I don't tend to overstock my potato tubs with seed potatoes, and that's the result. Good sized beetroot, of course, now at this time of year. And actually just down here, that is the last of the beetroot from store. And masses and masses of courgettes. So I don't know how many courgettes we've already got through this week, but obviously we're picking them and eating them during the week as well. I was picking them in a main harvest day. And French beans looking pretty good. Just started to get the first few outdoor ones. Got loads of peas and shallots and the first few red cabbages. So that's one that I peeled, and that's one that I just harvested this morning. So yeah, we've got loads of red cabbages coming, so that's quite nice. This is a bit of an experiment for this year, getting nice early red cabbage. It's worked out pretty well so far. Beetroot leaves, peas. I think this is the end of the peas probably from my plot now, and we're on to the main crop peas in the kitchen garden. And what else have we got? Oh, onions, of course, and yeah, spring cabbages, pointy cabbages. I didn't actually expect to have calabrese this week, but anyway, we've got calabrese this week, and hopefully we'll have cauliflowers again next week. And a few of the spring cabbages have gone to seed, but obviously the leaves are just as good. I actually quite like these seed heads. Loads and loads of spinach. I think we've only got one pick of spinach left now because it is all starting to go to seed, and broad beans, and oh yeah, I actually picked a decent number of tomatoes this week, so that's certainly enough for me. And obviously a few red onions. Now actually these are worthy of comment because we've only got about 3 or 4 big red onions this year from the early crop. We've picked some smaller ones, but anyway, they're the last, I think, of the big ones. A bit of kale, not too much kale though, because we've got all these lovely cabbages. And strawberries, of course most of those just get eaten on the day, fresh. And I'm having a lot of fruit salads at the moment, so at least one big fruit salad a day with sort of bio yogurt and a bit of cream. Oh, first leeks of, not of the year of course, because we had plenty of leeks in spring, but the first leeks of summer. So I always like to have leeks in my life, and yeah, they're looking pretty good, you know, small but big enough. And then we've got all the salads, loads and loads of salads underneath here, and salad carrots. So these are so much nicer than the ones that we sowed back in October. So I'm quite happy to have those. And the second decent pick, I think, of the chili peppers. The last one was about 3 weeks ago, I think. We just kind of picked them in batches like that. And salad onions, looking gorgeous, and celery. And I just do my celery mostly cut and come again. So I just take off the larger of the outer stems. But that's looking pretty good. So generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with this table. As I say, it's nothing special really at this time of year, but still nice to have. So I hope you liked this quick video. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.